Hello and welcome to the United States of America, specifically Watkins Glen. One more. I'm taking a quick sip from my water cup there. It's the third video in a row on Watkins Glen I am doing, but it will be the last one for a while because you never see this track in public lobbies and it's now out of rotation on LFM. More on that in a second. Just want to point out I do a 147.2 in qualifying, and this provisionally puts me on P6, but when all is said and done and the race starts, I will be starting in P8 next to Onetti. I have Buchwitz in front and then Nguyen to my front right. So Black Ferrari, Buchwitz, important. I jumped them on the start. I get alongside. Now Onetti on my right side is jumping both of us, so we end up in a 3 wide, and I'm very focused on that, and still a little bit surprised too by Nguyen in the blue Porsche braking earlier than I expected to, and I run into the back of them. And worse, I try to evade for a moment, but I end up running into Buchwitz on the left first, bumping them off track. Then I get bounced back into Onetti on my right, bumping them off track. And since life isn't always fair, I'm definitely the bad guy here. If I get reported, I'll accept blame instantly. But it ends up so that I bump away both my competitors on my row, and then I drive off into the distance. I feel a bit bad here, but nothing I can do but try to do better going forward. So this all leaves me in P6. Nguyen in P5 got a bit of a speed boost from me hitting them. I'm sure it wasn't very welcomed, but that's what happened. So they are up on the road from me, and I have Rodriguez behind me now in P7, but not really all that close, considering that we've only just started, and I'll be gapping them further as we continue the race. Quickly back to LFM. So LFM is a website that organizes their own races in multiple different racing games, and for each game they have a ELO rating and a safety rating that they attribute to drivers. So you end up getting, it's pretty restrictive safety rating system, so you end up getting races supposedly that are less error prone and more proper racing, because you also get matched with drivers that are more or less around your strength. And I found that it works pretty well, so I've been enjoying these. Watkins Glen is now out of rotation, so won't be seeing that for a while. Next up is Monza, which I probably won't do as much since I've done plenty of that, but we'll see. Now I'm gonna fast forward a bit through this race. One notable thing that happened here on lap 3 is Breedveld in the black McLaren. Coming out of chute, they dip their tire into the grass, they spin out, they try to recover safely. I make my way through already, and then they don't see some black Porsche coming down the road, and they drive in front of them, get hit very badly, jump to the pits, and it's race over for Breedveld. So I'm promoted from P6 to P5 without doing anything really. We can see behind that Onetti has overtaken Rodriguez, and they'll be kind of the pressure from behind for me, but not really, because they don't really make any inroads on me for quite a while. I'll get back to that as well in a moment too. It'll be quite a while though before we get to that point, because first Onetti, I think, had some real life event going on, and it ends up so that in lap 5 they just kind of slow down, pull over to the road, and then teleport to the pits, and they stay there for quite a while. So we can see it now in action. So just kind of pulling over for seemingly no reason, and then as soon as they stop, they are off to the pits. So yeah, I can only assume something in real life came up, as in the race there doesn't seem to be anything. Now in the meantime, in P1, T. Kovac suddenly was teleported to the pits while they were still driving, which you can't initiate yourself, it's just disabled while you're driving. So they pretty surely disconnected from the race, and this promotes me up to P4 without me once again doing anything. So at this point I'm skipping ahead to lap 10 in the race, and as we can see from the timing sheet, I have Onetti very close behind once again. This is because once they eventually rejoined the race, they came out of the pits, I think right in front of me, and I immediately overtook them. But then they started putting pressure on me. I think maybe their car was repaired, or I was getting a bit fatigued from just driving a race that they had mostly skipped. So in any case, they were putting pressure, and I figured I have nothing to gain here. The race is almost over. I'm in a fantastic, for me, P4, which I never expected to get. So I just want to bring it home safe, and I had about 5 or 6 seconds lead behind, so Onetti is just a back marker I don't need to care about. So I moved over and let them pass, and that was it. So yeah, a fantastic result, but the race felt pretty bad. Now I was already signed up for a next race at the same track. So off to qualifying I went. This time I was seat 11 once again. It was the same in my previous 2 videos. And that's also once again where I qualified. So off we are for this last race on Watkins Glen for a while. And into turn 1 there's actually no drama. Maybe the biggest thing around me is the McLaren, the white one with the sky livery, just kind of jumping out of the way. Not sure why, I don't feel like I was all that close, but that's what they chose to do. I got a bit of a jump on the, I believe it's Aston Martin behind me. So I secure my position on my row, and then with the McLaren jumping out of the way, it's another position gained. So this puts me up in P9, but then in between turn 2 and 3, that's where the big drama first strikes. So there's 2 black McLarens involved. We're now following Nas here, but he's very close to Breedveld. Coming into turn 1, Nas sticks their nose up on the inside. I don't feel like they belong there. They're not far enough alongside. Ends up spinning Breedveld a bit. Now Breedveld doesn't want to give an inch, so coming out of turn 2, they end up hitting the curb a little bit, and as they are wheel to wheel, front to back wheel, they get drifted into Nas, and they take each other out basically. So it's pretty spectacular fashion too, and they are fully airborne, as you can see here. I think specifically Breedveld, and I have to do all I can to avoid Nas, who is fully spun around and standing backwards. Now the blue Aston Martin, I believe, ends up hitting them, and Nas gets hit once more, and they end up facing the right way, presumably with plenty of damage, but they are back on their way. Breedveld has a bit less luck, and I have to say their name has come up a lot in these videos I've done on Watkins Glen, always involved in accidents. So yeah, maybe I need to feel bad for them. Maybe the onus is more on them, up to you to decide. Whichever, for me the race goes on. I'm in P6, which is 5 places up from where I was supposed to be according to my ELO. And this becomes clear pretty quick as Figgis makes a pretty easy move on me. We're heading up to shoot corner. They're already putting pressure, and I end up sliding just a little bit, drifting wide and not being able to put the power down as much as I would like to. So Figgis has an easy overtake on the inside from there. Now I was kind of figuring maybe I can put some counter pressure, but immediately I was under pressure myself from behind once more. This time it's Brustmann, I should say, I guess, presumably German name, pulls alongside on the mini straight. They are on my inside, so I leave just barely enough room for them. I was already pinching them a bit to the inside, and coming up to corner 9, they go for a switchback and they try to move to the inside on this next corner, but I cover it off just about. So there's no way for them through. I was worried they would go for a dive, so I left just about enough space for that. Because I figured they were already quite close. But yeah, turns out that I was just about far enough ahead, and they didn't fancy the move anymore. Coming out of the last corner though, they have a good amount of overspeed on me. They pull alongside on the main straight and even pull ahead a little bit. But they are on the tighter line coming into turn 1, so I end up back fully alongside with them. As we are heading up to corner 2 though, I'm pinched a little bit to the outside. I probably should have put a bit more pressure to the inside myself, since there was a bit of space there. But whatever, coming into turn 3, I'm very tight now on the inside. It's a difficult corner to not drift wide already, even if you're not side by side with someone. So I end up having to let it go. So let's look back at this in the replay. So yeah, up the hill in toe corner, pulling alongside. Making our way down to heel. They are on the inside. I leave just about enough space, And they do back out of it a little, then going for the switchback. I see it coming, cover it off on the inside, still leaving just about enough space. So yeah, I have better traction coming out of the corner because I have more room on exit. And for now, I hold on to the position. But then they have a nicer line coming into turn 1, and this will give them the speed they need to firstly pull alongside, but then by the time we make our way to the start-finish line, they're already pulling a bit ahead. In turn 1, I pull it back. As we can see here, I can go on the throttle a little earlier, but then still have to watch out for a slide there. So it's neck and neck, and yeah, heading up to turn 3. Now they are ahead a bit, and as we can see, I'm a bit skittish there on the curb on the inside, and I back out of it. Let's take a final view from the top. So this is coming out of toe corner, heading to heel. So leaving that bit of space on the inside. Here the switchback happens. So I'm taking the natural line, going for a wide entry, but they try to then move on the inside. I squeeze a bit, but leaving space. So nothing wrong with that, I would say. And then as we are heading up to turn 1, we can see them pull ahead. Here's the start-finish line. So they are really quite solidly ahead, almost a full car's length there. But in turn 1, I do bring it back mostly. I'm still on track here on the red because the red and yellow curb counts. But then here we can see I'm partly on the marbles, and then as we come to turn 3, it feels very dicey, and I just have to back out of it, and that's the position gain for Brustman, position loss for me. So this puts me back in P8, which I was still very happy with, and I have to say I enjoyed this battle so much. I shot a message to Brustman on LFM actually earlier today before recording this voiceover, just telling them congrats on the overtake. It was really nice and that I enjoyed our battle. Now, as said, I was seated 11th in this race, so I figured 2 cars in front that were seated higher than me would be pulling away a bit. Not to say that I won't be trying to stick with them, but I was feeling already a little resigned to the fact that I wouldn't be gaining those positions back. And I was thinking more about what's happening behind. So I was checking it, and there's Deschamps, who was, I think, rated about the same as me. I'm not entirely sure anymore now. But my plan at this point was to try and keep them behind. Now, in the meantime, in front of me, Te Kovac, whom you may remember from the previous race as having disconnected, ends up being a bit too trigger happy on the throttle in turn 9. I've highlighted this in previous videos. It's really easy to be too fast on the throttle there. And they spin around, and they're in a very awkward position here. Since this is a very narrow part of the track, these cars aren't the best at very sharp turns. And he doesn't want to go onto the racing line since he was very much in the front, so there's a whole lot of cars still coming through. So ends up doing a super slow recovery, but gets there in the end, so back on their way. In the meantime, my view was in the picture-in-picture, but nothing much happened except I completed my lap. And as we rejoin the action here, we can see that the gap behind us opened up a bit to just about 2.5 seconds, as well as the gap in front has increased to about 2.5 seconds. So it looks like I might be stationary for the rest of the race if nothing changes, and I was pretty happy with that. If I'm honest, I feel like now P7 with the Kovac spin and overtake, I'd be punching up. So I'm very happy with that. In the meantime, in front of me, we're in shoot corner on board with Brustman. Again, my view is in the picture-in-picture. But Brustman was already all over the back of Figgis, and coming out of shoot, they just have a better exit. So they managed to come alongside, already heading into toe corner, giving them the inside line. And since it's, for me, definitely the preferred line there, they managed to get an overtake there on Figgis. And I'm now chasing down Figgis instead of Brustman. Brustman seemed like a very solid driver, so no big surprises there. On we go, and you may have noticed that Deschamps behind has pulled a little bit closer. I felt during this point of the race that fatigue was really setting in a bit, so I was still hoping to catch up to Figgis in front, but I felt that it was much more likely that Deschamps would start to close in, and it kind of became a self-fulfilling prophecy because I was feeling the fatigue and kind of thinking about that and thinking, okay, this will be my last race of the evening, but then I think I started overthinking things and it started costing me a lap time. Not quite yet now because I did a 147.4 and the Shong behind is a 147.7. So for the previous lap, I did pull away by about 3/10. But it's fluctuating back and forth a bit, and during the lap, maybe I corrected it back towards the end of it, but there were definitely points during the lap where actually they were catching up to me. Now, skipping ahead quite a while, and there's less than 8 minutes left in the race, and the Shong has caught up to me very, very heavily. So they're now within about half a second behind. The timing sheet is showing it a bit closer in the slow corners, but it's roughly between half a second and a second. Although maybe here actually they close up even more. And importantly, also the gap in front has increased massively. It's about 5 seconds up the road to Figgis now. So yeah, I feel pretty resigned at this point. But I tell myself that, hey, I qualify better than the Shong. I've been doing better laps for quite a while. There's not that much time left in the race. It's time to lock in. So coming into turn 1 here, I hadn't hit that corner in a satisfying way all race, and finally I really got the apex nicely there. I was very happy with how that one went, and this was right behind me thinking I need to steal my resolve and just carry on and try to hit my turn solidly. And immediately the gap increases back to a second and a half. So yeah, it seems like maybe a very random moment, but to me in the race it was meaningful. And as this was happening and I was focused behind, I didn't immediately catch on to this, but Figgis in front had about a 6-second gap at the peak of it, but it's already reduced to about 4 seconds as we make our way through lap 7. And it's because they had this big slide in the inner loop. So suddenly they start appearing back in my view. In the meantime, in my rear view mirror, the Shong is looking quite a bit more distant than just 1 lap ago. So I'm starting to believe again in myself and figuring maybe Figgis isn't as out of reach as I thought. Maybe if I can keep it up and keep it steady, they might start being fatigued as well. I don't know what's up in their life. Maybe I will catch up. And once again, in a heel corner, Figgis does make a mistake. They almost send it into the barrier. They do catch the slide, but again, it costs them a bit of time, so maybe about another second one for me. And then as we are heading towards the last corner of the lap, Figgis makes a big mistake. They put both left side wheels on the grass and they end up hitting the barriers pretty hard, possibly even getting damage. And suddenly, where I had the Shong putting a lot of pressure and Figgis was out of range 2 laps ago, I'm now getting closer and closer to Figgis, and I can almost smell them while the Shong is dropping away from me again. So the tides can shift in these types of races. I have now a 2-second gap behind. I can put the Shong out of mind for a bit and really work on putting that pressure on Figgis. So coming back up to inner loop, I didn't know that they had made a mistake there in the previous lap during the race, but I still figured it's a pretty strong sequence for me, so I back off a little bit heading into it, hoping that they might not have as good a drive through it. And my wish is granted because they have a terrible drive through it, having to cut the second part of it and cutting across the grass, costing them heaps of time. So I'm now making myself as large as I can in their mirrors. They end up taking a tight entry line into chute corner, giving me then a better line on the exit. And once again, I'm putting heavy pressure into toe corner. I didn't plan to dive on the inside, but I do make a move signaling that I'm thinking about it, just to put more pressure. And this works out very, very well for me with Figgis drifting very wide through the corner and allowing me to actually make the move on the inside and then pushing through and getting the job done. So let's review this battle as well. Here we come up to the inner loop. I back out a bit right before. Maybe Figgis is distracted, I don't know, but they end up skipping the final part of the sequence, skidding across the grass, and I'm very, very close behind now, really looking to make a move perhaps on the inside in the outer loop. This turns into the outside of chute, which puts me on a nice line on entry, and I just have a nice line throughout the corner, better than Figgis, so I'm again all over the back of them. I'm throwing a bit of a dummy there, but it ends up becoming a real move as Figgis just goes wide and I get the overtake, and I managed to move up into P6 from all of this. Now, with me battling with Figgis, this has brought Deschamps right back into the fold, so they are right behind Figgis now too. So when it rains, it pours for Figgis, so more pressure for them. And I'm hoping that they'll be distracted from that, and I can drive away and gap both of them. So let's see how that plays out. In front of me, Brustman is now doing a 146.2, and the person in front, Zamosi, a 146.1. So I don't stand a snowball's chance in hell of catching up with that, because my personal best on this track is a 146.6, I think. In any case, I came very close to it already in this race, but I'm not going half a second under, so yeah. The gap in front is massive by now, and I can put that out of mind with only 3 minutes left in the race to boot. Behind me, Figgis and Deschamps are really battling hard. They were, I assume, side by side, since the gap back was 1 second flat to both of them for a moment. Figgis ends up taking the lead once more though, so the gap to Deschamps increases, or between them becomes about half a second. But all of this is good news for me, as long as they are working each other, they are not working me, and I can ease my mind a bit with about a 1 second gap behind. Now I'm really flying high at this point in the race. I feel like with me approaching my personal best already previously, and having had these two, in my mind, amazing battles, and actually on review I'm still very pleased with them. So with Brustman and Figgis, yeah, I'm just, as I said, flying high. I'm feeling very confident here, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm firing on all cylinders and I just need to bring this home. So keep gapping Figgis as much as I can. By now we're up to 1.5 seconds there, which is great, and just bring it home in P6, because it would be a massive, or maybe not massive, but a great overperformance on my end. I put down another 146.8, so great lap from my point of view. Again, just about 2/10 off from my absolute personal best on the track, and a whole second up from Figgis, so the gap behind approaching 2 seconds now. So feeling great at this point, and starting to think that, alright, let's calculate. So there's about 1.5 minutes to go in the race. P1 is just making their way around chute corner, so that means that yeah, this is not the last lap, but there will be only one left. And as I'm doing all of these calculations, I just cut the curb very badly coming into the inner loop. I got the second one even worse. I slide out, I crash into the barriers. 3 cars overtake me. Kobilchak almost makes their way past as well. Just about managed to hold them back, and yeah, it's tears in heaven here. So we'll see it again on the review. I don't really cut the first curb well enough, and the second one too much. This sends me, or this upsets my car. I end up in a slide, don't manage to catch it, hit the barriers, and I was a bit worried about my rejoin in front of Kobilchak, but we can see from their point of view that it wasn't all that bad actually. They presumably are a bit hampered by me since I was a little slow, but it's not like I'm almost stationary there. So they are on a bit of an awkward line, and I managed to keep the position, but I think it's on the up and up. I'm not worried about that one in hindsight, even though I was during the race a bit. But yeah, a bit of heartbreak there. The race could have been one big highlight, but then the fatigue creeps back in lap 10, right towards the final stages of the race. And suddenly, from leading a train from P6 through P10, I'm now just a wagon in the train, find myself in P9.
Alright man, the leader is on the final lap. Give it a final push.
And yeah, the message comes that the leader is now on the final lap, and I just, during the race already, I was thinking that, man, I should have gotten that message being in P6. I should have started the last lap in P6 and driven off into the sunset to the cars behind. But you know, things happen. I'm far from perfect, so I make mistakes too, and I can still be happy with the battles I had I had earlier in the race, and actually P9 still a pretty decent result, even all in all, 2 places up from where I started. Now, during the race, I was still looking to catch up to Pedrosa. The gap in front was only 0.7 seconds. But on the other hand, Kobilchak was still looking to put pressure behind as well. I had gotten a bit more damage, I think, during my crash into the barrier, so there was still work to be done, trying to make an overtake and defending against a possible one from behind. Going through inner loop, I cut the curves far better this time, so I notice I'm closing up on Pedrosa and thinking maybe there is a chance to do an overtake, but I didn't notice that Kobilchak did even better than me in the inner loop and presumably the outer loop especially, so they are now right behind me, and as we are in shoot corner, I notice how big they are suddenly in my mirrors, so all my attention shifts to the back, and we make our way through shoot corner. I make sure to keep it very tight on the inside, because that's where an overtake could happen, if anywhere, in that corner. So I managed to keep Kobilchak behind. The gap reopens to just about half a second, and with only 1, 2, 3, 4 corners to go, that presumably should be doing it. Now, I do think at this point that, yep, overtaking on Pedrosa is not happening, unless they make a massive mistake, but yeah, nothing I can do to make that happen. I just have to make sure I don't make that mistake myself. So in turn 9, I had a bit of a slide, but I catch it, and then through turns 10 and 11, I just make sure to cruise a little bit, not enough that Kobilchak could make a move, but enough to make sure I am safe, and I end up bringing it home in P9. And there was definitely a bunch of disappointment in there, but overall I was still very happy with this race, especially compared to the race before, which is a bit funny because I end up in P9 here, not that much above where I was seated, whereas the P4 in the previous race was much, much higher, but then I didn't feel like I had to do much for it, whereas in this race I really worked for my result. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Catch you on the next one.